You know, sometimes government decisions just feel like they're happening in a black box.
Mm,
Well, we're cracking that box open today.
yeah.
And what we're finding is pretty concerning.
Yeah, sounds interesting.
The Office of Management and Budget,
Okay.
the OMB,
Right.
just put a pause on all federal grants and loans.
Whoa.
This is a really big deal,
I can imagine.
especially for healthcare.
Yeah, that's a big one for sure.
Our source today is an article from Raw Story,
Okay.
and they highlight some intense criticism about this whole thing.
Interesting.
A former OMB official, Topher Spiro, who actually worked under President Biden, called it a massive fraud.
Wow. A massive fraud. So what's going on here?
Well, first we need to understand who's really calling the shots here.
Right.
Russell Vought,
Okay.
Trump's pick to head the OMB.
Right.
He hasn't actually been confirmed by the Senate yet,
Okay.
but the article seems to think that he's the mastermind behind all of this.
So he's not even officially in the job.
Right. And he's already making these huge decisions.
Yeah.
Is that even legal?
Well, it's definitely a bit of a gray area, legally speaking.
Interesting.
He's operating in the space of influence
Yeah.
without official authority.
Yeah.
And that raises a lot of questions, like, is this some kind of power grab?
Yeah, it seems that way.
Is he setting a precedent for future administrations
Right.
to just be able to halt funding for programs that they don't like,
Right.
regardless of what Congress has to say about it?
And what does this memo even say?
Right.
Like, what's the official reason for stopping everything like this?
Well, officially, it instructs all agencies to review their grant and loan programs. Make sure they're in line with President Trump's executive orders.
Okay.
Basically, they're just saying it's a way to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Right, so everyone's aligned with...
To President's agenda?
Yeah. But Spiro seems to think it's more than just about that.
Yeah, I think so, too. He thinks it's about targeting certain specific programs, right?
Right. And this is where I think it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Spiro is arguing this is all ideologically driven. Vought is going after programs that he and his allies just don't like,
Right.
regardless of how effective they actually are.
Okay. And we're not just talking about like small little programs, right?
No.
The article lists some pretty big ones.
Absolutely huge programs.
Yeah.
So we're talking opioid prevention,
Wow.
mental health services,
Yeah.
community health centers, suicide prevention. Even the National Suicide Lifeline could be affected by this.
Wow.
And it goes even beyond that.
Okay.
HIV/AIDS treatment, avian flu response.
Wow.
These are all vital programs that help incredibly vulnerable populations.
So it seems like they're targeting the people who need these programs the most.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. I didn't realize that the OMB had this much power
Oh, yeah.
to just disrupt these huge programs without any congressional approval. They have a huge amount of influence.
Wow.
The OMB is essentially like the gatekeeper for all federal spending.
Right.
So they have huge power over how taxpayer dollars are used.
Yeah.
And when they freeze these funds,
Right.
it basically stops these programs dead in their tracks.
So it's like hitting a system-wide pause button.
Yeah, you can think of it like that.
Wow.
And this freeze doesn't just impact new grants that are coming out.
Oh, wow.
It also affects the existing program.
Oh, so programs that have already been approved?
Wait, imagine research projects
Yeah.
being halted mid-study.
Right.
Or community clinics having to turn away patients because
Ah.
their funding just dried up.
This isn't just a theoretical thing.
Well,
This could actually impact you
exactly.
or someone you know.
Right.
If you or a loved one relies on any of these programs,
Yeah,
this funding freeze could have very serious consequences.
absolutely. And I think that's where Spiro's fraud claim is coming from.
Yeah.
He believes that this is all a smokescreen. Right. Just getting rid of programs that a certain ideology dislikes rather than genuine fiscal responsibility.
So how does this all connect to the bigger picture?
Well, I think it definitely highlights the tension between executive power and congressional oversight.
Right.
Can an unconfirmed nominee really wield this much influence?
Right.
And what does that mean for future administrations?
Right.
Could any incoming president just halt funding
Right.
for whatever programs that they don't like?
It just seems like a very slippery slope.
I agree. And it's a reminder that we all need to be asking tough questions about how our government operates.
Right.
Who actually has the power to make these decisions?
Right.
And are they being held accountable for them?
So to sum up, we've got a very politically charged situation here.
Absolutely.
We've got an unconfirmed nominee
Right.
who is potentially driving a funding freeze that could impact all sorts of critical programs.
Across the board.
While some people might say that a new administration has a right to review spending, the lack of transparency here and the seemingly targeted nature of this, it really does raise some red flags.
It does.
This whole deep dive has been really eye-opening.
Yeah, it's concerning.
It leaves me with a lot to think about.
I feel the same.
And for our listeners out there, what can they do about this?
What can we all do?
This feels like one of those times when just being informed isn't enough.
I completely agree. I think this is a time to get engaged.
Yeah.
Contact your representatives. Voice your concerns.
Right.
Ask questions.
Yeah.
Make sure the people in power understand how their decisions affect people in the real world.
Right.
This isn't just about politics. This is about people's lives.
Yeah, and this is something that can really impact everyone.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This has been a really great discussion.
I agree.
And to all of our listeners out there,
make
sure you stay informed
and
and engaged.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time.